Hello, this is a devlog on the free software / open source molecular structure drawing application that I am working on currently. So you can find this on my GitHub if you want to. You will find the link down below. And last time I probably showed you that in this program you can basically add atoms, and you can see that there is, in chemistry we like to draw these 60 and 30 degree angles and 90 degree angles. So it's kind of showing you where the new atoms should be added, things like that. But since then I've added a bunch of new features. So one of them is, so on the left hand side I already drew a few molecules. So these are for the organic molecules, and the right hand side you can see some inorganic examples. So I'm trying to make this program in a way that you could use it for both cases. So for organic molecules, this button is very important because in a lot of cases you just want to hide the carbon atoms. You don't need to explicitly show where the carbon atoms are, because wherever there is like a break in the lines there, that's the carbon atom, and you only draw the bonds between the atoms. And so in case of this benzene ring here, for example, you can see how it looks like. And one of the nice things I've done is that if you focus on these rings, you can see that the ring is continuous in this case. So the outer ring, the single bonds, double bonds, doesn't matter, it's continuous. And here you could see still that the single ring and single bond and double bond case will still have like a continuous line. But if you focus on this part here, and if I just turn on the explicit carbons, you can see that now the double bonds between explicitly shown symbols, they kind of centered, they are now centered, and so you can see them move if I am clicking them. So this is kind of an aesthetic thing I've done here. So of course you can see that these two carbon atoms are not disappearing, because in a straight line you wouldn't know which one is a carbon atom, so what does one atom, and is it two atoms or what? But what you can do is now you can select one atom here and you can press F5. I don't have a button made for this, and this will kind of optimize this molecular drawing. Here you can see that now my carbon atom is hidden. If I select one, there will be this green rectangle representing this instead of having the letter itself appearing in green. So this is one of the things you can do. Here, this one is also, you could press F5 and this will be optimized for you. And of course, you can see that if, for example, this case, which is a amino acid, or this should be like a carboxyl acid, you can add the hydrogens here. So wherever something is missing, the hydrogens will be added in appropriate numbers. And this actually works if I just add the new oxygen atom, for example. You can see that the hydrogens will be added, or add the nitrogen, so ammonia and water. So the thing is, you can see here that depending on which side the bonds are for a certain atom, the hydrogen will appear either on the left or the right hand side of the other atom. So this oxygen will have the hydrogen on the right hand side, but for example this carbon has like this bond in the right hand side, so hydrogen goes to the left hand side, and this will make this ammonia is good, but oxygen, or water, it's kind of weird that it is like that. And so if you move towards the inorganic cases, we also have this electron thing where we can show the electron structure of these molecules. So you can see that we have these non-bonding pairs, the lone pairs over here. And what we can do is, if I draw these things in properly, so for example I want to add an oxygen atom with double bonds, I can draw it like this, but if I go on this carbon and press F5, this will straighten my carbon dioxide up. And similarly, if I wanted to draw like my sulfur dioxide in a straight line, which is kind of weird, and I optimize this structure, it will bend this, and the same will be happening to water. If I draw it in a straight line, of course, it will figure out that it's not good. And you can see how when it was in a straight line, if I delete one hydrogen, you can see there is the radical symbolized by a dot, and you can see this is kind of not really good for these more complex carbon chains in the organic case, because in that case we just don't want to add all the hydrogens anyways. But this is kind of nice for these smaller inorganic molecules. So let's add the hydrogen here in a straight line. You can see that now these non-bonding pairs, these lone pairs, have been put on these two sides. And if I, for example, have this more complex thing with a xenon atom and a lot of like fluorine, you can see that these non-bonding pairs or radicals, whenever someone shows up there, these will be kind of distributed evenly. But if I try to optimize this structure, it will make it a nicer way when all the non-bonding pairs and radicals are on the same side. So I can kind of add one more fluor over here, or maybe let me add this fluor some weird way. Right there, you can see that now the two non-bonding pairs are drawn on that side, but if I press F5 to optimize this, it will change this in a way that's kind of more close to kind of the 3D representation of this kind of structure would be. But anyways, so these are kind of the functions we have. These dative bonds, things like that were already here. So this carbon monoxide, for example, with the dative bond to an oxygen, that was already there. You can see now the lone pairs added here, etc. So there are a few things that are missing. Most notably, there is no save and load in this program yet. So whenever you start the program, you will have to start from zero, from the empty canvas, and you will have to draw everything by yourself. And of course, there is no export function yet. I will figure out the export to SVG most probably, because I will just, instead of drawing the lines and putting the letters on screen, I just have to put them in an SVG document, which I've never done before, but reading some documentation, it is not that difficult. So that will be the next step probably before save and load. But I will not make up a save and load method before I actually have all the functions implemented here, which are needed, because I don't want to just have to constantly revise the format for the file. And there is one thing, for example, the ions. So I still cannot add charge to my atoms and molecules here, which actually the engine of this whole project can handle charged atoms, but that's missing currently. There is also one thing I want to do, which is just to be able to add like a letter R to somewhere. So in organic chemistry, you usually use the letter R or R prime or R double prime and things like that to represent kind of carbon or hydrocarbon chains. We could do that, and we could even add like like the hydrocarbon chain with, I don't know, C2H5 or C3H7, things like that. I want to be able to add those. I want to be able to add placeholders which don't have these chemical checks, because these currently, so I cannot, for example, to this carbon atom, I cannot add anything else, because this carbon atom already has the 4 bonds that is possible for a carbon atom to have, and things like that. So here, of course, I could still add, well, I should set it back to single and that kind of bond, but I added all the fluors and I cannot add anything anymore to this. So I would like to be able to have kind of, because in organic or metal organic chemistry, you generally can have a lot of metal atoms which would be much harder to program each metal atom separately, how they should behave, and I could just give a placeholder to the user, and they would be able to set this metal atom app up in a way they want. There is no delocalization yet in this program, and I don't really know how I will implement that, but that is something I will need to figure out later. I will probably add some kind of information window, so if I select an atom, it will tell me like what is it connected to, things like that. Maybe I will have like molecule info. Maybe I can add like atomic weights to my system, and it will be able to calculate the atomic weight of a molecule that you select. Things like that. But I will be updating you with how this progress is going with this program. And of course, the user interface and the user experience is kind of horrible. At this time, I am just making it in a kind of a way that's simple to implement, and it's just barely usable for me to test out the program itself. So if you have any inclination to help me out, especially in the user experience, I'm always happy to get pull requests, or, you know, you can clone the repository, you can give feature requests, or, I don't know, bug reports in GitHub, and you can, you know, clone the repository and give me or make a pull request if you have any kind of change that you want to implement on this program. And well, I will see you in the next video. Give me a like, subscribe, whatever. You can always comment down below. And bye bye, I guess.